A big hello and a warm welcome to all of you amazing and beautiful people out there to my channel, the Twinflame Union. And in this channeling, the title is Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine Move In Together. So let's get started and get into the channeling now. So what I've been shown in this channeling is that there is a couple basically, and their energies are connected to many others because they are very high vibrating souls. So they are here on this planet to help raise the frequency of planet Earth by their love and their oneness. They're coming together, and they both have very simple lifestyles, and they are not taking any support from others, which means that both of them are working and they're making their own money. They're basically hustling together. And this couple, they faced separation, they faced the on and off, they faced all the stages. And after facing all the stages, they finally realized that it would be better if they live together under one roof, from where they can carry out their work. And both of them, what I've been shown, they are on separate missions. Though obviously their missions are to increase love on planet Earth and is to help other people, but they have chosen separate areas. But both of them respect each other's work a lot, and obviously because they are both doing very beautiful work in their own specialized areas. And the Divine Masculine is not earning so much, and because he chooses to go with the Divine Feminine, finally, like, he makes the decision that he will not be with his family who is against her, who was against her. Now they are not against her, is what I'm being shown, but he comes from a very wealthy background. He comes from a very well-to-do background, so he does not want to take parental support. He talks to his family and he says that I want to do my own things, and even if I don't earn huge amount of money, even if I don't amass that much wealth that you guys have, his parents have, or the lineage or the legacy that is being given to him, I want to basically do on my own. And this was also his struggle when he was in separation phase, because he felt that he won't be able to afford the lifestyle, or he is still not in that stage because his parents or his upbringing, or you can say, without blaming anyone, guys, because this is simply a result of a lifestyle, or the friends he had, they were all hanging out in very big cars, expensive cars, living in very big bungalows, very big houses, having lots and lots of money. So he was kind of dependent on them, though he was financially always trying to be independent, but it wasn't huge amount of money that he was earning. And during the separation phase, he sort of realized that only making money and only having a very great lifestyle, that is not his goal. And he also does not want to be one of those men, who depend on women or who depend on their parents. So since a young age, he always liked to arrange his own things on his own without seeking help from his parents. But obviously when he grew more and more and he started hanging out with his friends, they were all handling their family businesses, or they were suddenly, all of his friends, they started taking care of big businesses and big things. So he did not want to do that. He was like, I would rather do things where I am on my own, I'm independent. So this being independent was a big struggle. But obviously he had to look up to his legacy, to look up to what his parents have done, the amount of wealth they have earned, or the amount of social status they have. So he felt that he can never go to that level. That's like too big. And even if he goes to that level, even if he manages to do that, then that is not really the only goal, because he has a attitude of social service. He wants to serve other people. He wants to help other people. He feels all this madness, towards materialism is no good. And also when he separated, he realized that the Divine Feminine was not money-minded at all. Like, she was more like a hippie spirit, more like a free soul, doing her own things, enjoying, and not, she was not very brand oriented, or she wasn't even She wasn't even that rich, he felt. Like she was from a okay household, not like him, because he's like super rich. So he leaves all of that, and this decision is also taken because he looks at her. He realizes that she's very mission oriented, and the things that she's doing for other people, for the work on planet Earth, he felt very inspired. And all of this happened majorly during the separation, because before the separation they were too busy fighting with each other, too busy quarreling with each other, too busy blaming each other, too busy finding faults in one another. And even if he had that phase where he thought that I can never be with her because she's so difficult or things cannot work out, he got a lot of time to think through this whole situation, and he felt on a daily basis, he felt the love was just increasing. When he chose to run away, or when he decided that he doesn't want to be with her, at that point in time it was still easy. For a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months down the line, things started changing, and the intensity that he was earlier scared from, the intensity of love, now the intensity of separation became too heavy for him to actually handle. So he started looking at her more seriously, he started looking at her work more seriously, and he then realized that what she's doing and the reason they are fighting was because her goals were different than his goals. She didn't have materialistic goals, she had more spiritualistic goals, and he had more, of like, I want to be this, I want to be that, I should have this status and I should have that status. So they were always fighting, because she would tell him that, no, let's do this, let's go to this place, we'll live there for 4 months or 5 months, then we'll work from there, then we'll come back and then we can go there. So he used to think that, oh, how can you live in a cheap guest house, or how can you live in a cheap hotel, or how can you live in an apartment? One should always live in a bungalow, one should always live in a very lavish way. So in separation, he calculated all the money, and he calculated everything, even the smallest bill, even the smallest restaurant bill he calculated that, with this money, I can do that, and instead I can buy the same thing at a cheaper price and still be very happy. Like, I don't need to wear a jacket which is gonna cost me, let's say, $10,000. And in $10,000 I can live very happily with her instead. For at least 3 months, I can afford the rent of 3 months, have a good, comfortable space, and also do my work, the work that he loves the most, which he's also earning from that work. But the only thing is, it's not so huge as in comparison with others. But now he feels more satisfied, because the separation has taught him a lot of big lessons. He has learned very deep, very meaningful lessons in separation phase. He has learned lessons of humanity more so than anything else. So he wants to give a lot of credit to his divine feminine, who has like really moved him by her work and by her mission and by the seriousness she showed towards doing what she loved, even when he wasn't there with her. Now what happens is, when they enter the house, they both look at each other and they feel very happy, because it's like most twin flame couples go through that, because they have seen so much during the separation phase or before the separation phase. In fact, during the final stages, it's still much better, because when you're harmonizing and when there is a glow, and when after surrender everything is very beautiful, then you still work, the inner work still goes, but you have that understanding. It's then more about the practicing part. Every day you practice more and more, and more challenges come up, and more you learn, and you learn how to react, and you learn how to respond, you learn how to deal with things. It's not how it used to be earlier, where there was too much reaction and it was mostly negative reaction. So when they enter the house, I'm being shown that they are both looking at the house. They're going to different rooms. And first, before selecting the house, I see that they looked up houses. The divine masculine looked up houses. And in some cases, I'm also being shown that the same energy, the similar energy is also in women who were earlier married to a false twin. and they had very abusive relationship, very difficult relationship with that false twin, and where they faced many times, they had sex without their choice. They had the husband used to slap them, beat them, or if not abuse them like that, but he would abuse them sexually, have very rough sex, have very difficult life they had with that false twin. And when they got married to the false twin, before getting married to the false twin, it was more like they got married because they thought that marriage would actually help them get out of their life, the earlier life, before they actually got ascended. They felt that, what they were lacking in their families, in their own family life, like with the mother, with the father, with the siblings, they didn't have love. They didn't have love, and there was another form of abuse, which is narcissistic abuse or emotional abuse or too much comparison. They were always made to feel that they are not good enough. So when they met the false twin, it was also to escape from their life, escape from the fact that they have no one who loves them. And the false twin, they're all very good actors. The false twins and their families. This can also play out to those girls who were in a very long relationship with the false twin, where they also lived in with the false twin. So they have had that experience where they got married to, or they were dating someone, they were in a relationship with someone only because they felt that the masculine's role is to be a protective figure or to be a good provider. And the divine masculines are always good providers. Let me tell you that right away, okay? Divine masculines are always good providers. They're very responsible of these things, that I have to take care of my wife, or I have to take care of my girlfriend, the person I am going to spend my life with, or the person I am there for. But the false twin only pretended that. The false twins always pretend that, okay? And if, for example, the false twin scenario has not played out with any of such divine feminines, they lived in a family for a long time that always used to make her feel that she's not capable, she's not good enough, she cannot take care of herself. Look at, she's so irresponsible. Despite being the most responsible, actually, because when you live with narcissistic people, for narcissistic people, other people are never good. So those divine feminines who were constantly told that they are not good enough, or they cannot pull anything, they don't have the capacity to be independent, they also learned in the ascension journey. And it does not mean that you have to live with them or without them, because this kind of situation also plays out mentally. So even if you try to move to another country or another city, but the effect of the upbringing, the narcissistic template was so strong that even when she was away from them, she always had this notions that, she needs someone, she cannot do without someone. So obviously she was attracting all the wrong friends and all the wrong relationships, because people were only sort of using her, and she was also trying to think that, I also need them for a reason. She wasn't really in love with them, or she wasn't really feeling the friendship bond with them. The divine feminines actually have been with false twins because the false twins showed them the same thing that they were looking in the divine masculine, the true divine masculine. So she then realized, after being in a relationship with the false twin, that this is not what my divine masculine would be like. So finally, when they meet the divine masculine, they know that these are all the qualities, and the divine masculine truly possesses the qualities. But what happens is that because, they have this whole excitement of convincing them, or they really want to show it to them that, yes, just the way I have recognized you as you are the one for me, similarly, you must also recognize. So they also recognize, but, it's too early for them to actually jump into that situation where there is a lot of responsibility, because the masculines also have unhealed wounds. So they run away from responsibility and a pure, true commitment. So now in this situation, since these two people, or the ones that I have channeled, they have already crossed those hurdles. They have crossed those hurdles of separation, and they are finally in a very harmonized space. Now they have both actually put down their weapons and they have stopped the war. And they are like, okay, I can see that I was the one also who had to work out on my wounds. So her biggest wound was, she was expecting the divine masculine to be in certain ways. For some people, it was like the mission was very important, that you should be in the same mission as mine. For some people, it was more like you have to do this, like you have to act accordingly. You have to earn this much money to be, so that we can have a life together. Or she never said it out loud for many things, but it was very obvious in her energy that she wanted him to be a more responsible person. Or when he was not around, emotionally not present, when she blasted at him, when she shouted at him, or when she fought with him, because she was very upset, and she was very upset that he is, why is he not understanding? Why is he not like, me? If I can see that he's the one for me, why can't he see it? Or when there were difficulties in her own personal life, because understand that her own energies were unhealed. So she was facing challenges on a constant basis. And this, I'm talking about the time when the inner work still wasn't done fully. It's only one by one that she learns to unravel the mysteries, unravel all the things. She learns it via, in many cases, she learns via research. In many cases, she finds a coach. There are different things that play out basically. But here, it's like, when they look at one another, they remember the hard times they have faced. Because for them, coming together again, coming back again is a very big achievement right now. And they're not even jumping over the moon, because now they have learned to not react to pain the way they used to, or react to joy the way they used to earlier. One thing is very clear: when the DMs used to tell her how much he loves her or how much he wants to be with her, she used to be over the moon. And the minute he would show one sign that he's not interested, or he would ignore the call, or he would ignore the message, straight away she would start thinking, now, he wants to leave me. So that used to play out as well. And again, they are both mirroring. So I'm not pointing fingers at the feminine or the masculine, because they are a team. They both had unhealed wounds that they are mirroring. And now when they have reached the harmonization, what I can see is that they are under the same roof. And this is where they have found a very nice place. It's not, so what they are saying is that it's not a fancy house. And one more thing that's coming up here is that this particular feminine, she also felt that the man's role is also to physically protect her, as much as emotionally and mentally and financially. But in the separation phase, she became the diva, okay, the goddess. She revived the goddess energy in her, and she could fight her own battles. She could pay all her own bills. She became financially sound. And it's not just the money, okay, so don't take it in a way that, okay, it's all about the money. It's also about being emotionally and mentally independent. So when you're emotionally and mentally independent, automatically the finances get taken care. Automatically, it happens on its own. And she's not money minded, so she's not just running after money, but she then realizes, or she has found out, that she doesn't need to be dependent on anyone, be it her mother or her father or her siblings or her husband or anyone for that matter. And she also doesn't need to do jobs where she doesn't have a heart into. She only wants to do what she loves, and alongside she's living a mission. So a mission is a personal feeling that she's here to do, she's born to do, and she's learned to segregate that materialism is something which is limited to planet Earth, because you cannot take anything from here. Everything will stay here. So as long as you're here, you're hustling because you can hustle. It's because you're independent enough to hustle. You don't have to look at your man and say that, he's only going to be my provider. She's her own provider. And this has actually created a mirror effect in the man. And he starts thinking that I also don't need to go very lavish. I don't need to go very big. I don't need to be so this and so that. I can have a very simple life with her. I can do my own things. I can work on my mission without being crazy about money. Because earlier his notion was that I have to make X amount of money in order to be able to take care of my house with her, along with her. So they are looking at the house, they are looking at the different rooms, different corners, they are looking at different spots in the house, and they are very satisfied. And they are saying to one another that this is our home. This is the home of our love, of our companionship, of our, what we made after going through so much pain. And it may not be very fancy, because it doesn't have to be very fancy. And I'm also being shown, because the same energy is in other places also. It's not like only one DF and DM is going through this. Now I'm being shown that there is a couple who used to live in the city. They used to have this notion that you have to have that fancy city life, and after going through the separation, they have taken a piece of land somewhere far away where they want to grow vegetables, they want to grow their own food, and they have a very simple house. It's a beautiful house. It's not like the typical city life. They don't have pubs or clubs around, or they don't have like the typical things that you see in a metro city. Even his job is not the same. Now they are completely working in such a way that they are in line with the nature, and they're also in line with their own preferences of work. So, and they don't have like 5 cars or 6 cars. They just have one vehicle which they would be using for their work, for whatever they have set up. It's like they have set up the work and living standards together. So I can see that also. And now they are looking at the piece of land. It's not a huge piece of land, but it's good enough for them, and they have bought it at a very cheap amount, low amount, and it's their own money, their own hard-earned money. So they are very happy about the situation, and they are looking at the house and they're looking at the land. For those who have taken up an apartment in the city, it's the same energy. Okay, the energy is the same. They're feeling the same things. Like, look, finally we have our own space. We can live in together. And this is also connected for some people with a commitment in their hearts. It's a heartfelt commitment. It can also happen with marriage. In some cases, it's marriage I'm being shown. In some places, it's living in together, a very solid commitment. Both of them are making this solid commitment. I also see that they have, they're co-owning that place. And those who were involved in some karmic situation, they have also learned their lessons. Not all of them are shown in karmic relationships, but they did have karmic templates. Like, as I said, society was a barrier, or social status was a barrier, or something else was a barrier. So they were too indulged in doing jobs or work or businesses which their heart was not into. So that is a karmic template, and a karmic relationship is different. So in both the cases, they have learned their lesson, because they felt a lot of pain, a lot of intense pain, a lot of longing, a lot of sadness, and they really felt that, I did wrong. I also did wrong. So the masculine is thinking that I should have been more understanding and not expected her to show me huge amount of love and commitment at one go. And she also feels that, I was expecting a lot. So their expectation setting has been done. And one of them is saying that it may not be a fancy house, it may not be a lavish house, but it's a beautiful house, because we have made this house from our own love. So I'm going to end the part 1 over here, and I will continue the lines, the statements that I have been given in part 2. So one love and peace out.